Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Welcome to SAP SuccessFactors Recruiting webcast, presented by Rebecca Murray and sponsored by Illumity HCM. If you have any questions today for our presenter or for HR.com, please type them into the Questions tab on your GoToWebinar control panel, and we will follow up with you. It is now my pleasure to turn it over to Rebecca and her presentation.
Thank you so much, Hester, and thank you everyone for joining today. My name is Rebecca Murray, and I'm very happy to be your host for today's webcast. Just a little bit of an agenda today. We'll start with quick introductions, a few moments about the basics of SAP SuccessFactors. Then we will get right into SuccessFactors Recruiting, some of the functionality, features, and benefits, and then we'll spend the majority of our time in a live system demonstration. I'm your presenter today, Rebecca. I am based in Atlanta, Georgia. I have been doing this for nearly a dozen years. I'm helping organizations really optimize their business processes as it relates to human capital management. And so very happy to share my experiences with you today. I work for an organization known as Illumity. We cover North America. We are SAP Platinum Partners. Several locations across the North American space, a large presence of consultants, a large contingent of happy customers, and a large number of successful engagements. So very happy to discuss with you any SAP needs, whether it's related to ERP, S4, by design, or SAP SuccessFactors. So talking about SAP SuccessFactors, for those of you who have not been exposed to this technology suite before, it is an entirely cloud-based solution that offers functionality for human capital management. Everything that you can need from start to finish: recruiting, which we'll look at today, onboarding, core HR data, advanced analytics. And the solutions themselves can be modified or tailored to meet the needs of large and small organizations. So we have customers with 25 people running our solutions, and then organizations with several 100,000 employees running the solutions as well. So you can see there's quite a range, and the solution is scalable as your organization grows or changes. Here's just a snapshot of some of the numbers around SAP SuccessFactors. We have localizations for over 84 different countries. We're up to about 89 now, I believe. Over 100 million users, 6,300 plus customers, and over 14 different data centers where your solution and data can be housed. I mentioned some of the different functional areas of SuccessFactors. This is kind of a little snapshot listing out all those different pieces. You can see in the middle is the talent management piece. Today, in today's session, we'll be looking at recruiting. We do also offer full core HR as well as workforce planning and analytics tools. Now you'll see these different start here tags just randomly placed on this screenshot. That's to indicate that all of our solutions are modular in nature. And so you can use each one as a standalone component, such as recruiting, or you can use multiple in conjunction with each other, and they share that same underlying foundational database. And so that allows you as a customer to determine where it is you want to start. If your immediate need is recruiting, then you don't have to implement our core HR in order to use our recruiting module. You can start with just the piece you need and determine the roadmap for moving forward according to your business needs. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about recruiting. I'm guessing that most of you are here today because of some of these numbers that are on the screen in front of us. And that's just the reality of today's business market. Recruiting good employees is becoming more difficult. It used to be that we could put an ad out or put a notice out or go through word of mouth and just receive several resumes or inquiries into that particular vacancy. But now we're seeing that we as recruiters and as organizations have to take a more active approach to getting good candidates to come to our company. Essentially, we have to do a little bit of marketing or advertising to get people to notice us or to appeal to someone's skill set to get them to apply into our organization. So it's taking longer, a shortage of skilled employees, and then a higher rate of turnover. As younger workers come in and they're trying to find a place that suits them, they tend to hop around a little bit more. We're also seeing some generations at the top in leadership roles retiring. So you're probably experiencing the need to hire maybe more than you did 5 years ago. And so in comes our solution, SAP SuccessFactors Recruiting. It is a full solution for recruiting. It covers not just basic applicant tracking or resume submission, but a full-blown solution that allows for the collection of talents and candidate resumes through talent communities, requisitions across the globe, interview tools, scheduling tools, sourcing information, and analytics. So when we think about our solution, we tend to think of it in 3 main components: sourcing, engaging, and hiring. And of course, the solution is supported through our mobile functionality. The 3 basics: source, engage, hire. On the source side, we have a multi-posting tool that allows our customers to post over 4,000 sources located on every continent. So if you happen to be a multinational organization or a global organization, you don't need to have multiple recruiting platforms for each of your locations. Our solution is a global solution and does include posting channels to organizations and posting sites globally. We do also offer posting on social channels globally. So again, you can advertise on not only different job boards, but places such as LinkedIn and Indeed. And then we do have proprietary search engine optimization through our career websites. And if you look at some of the numbers around performance increases before and after using our solutions, and I'd be happy to send them to you, we are finding our customers are seeing significant improvements in terms of clicks and then follow through applications. In the middle, under the Engage section, we do offer responsive and easy to use career sites. They are self-managed, which is a nice feature. As your organization changes or you want to refresh your image, you can actually go in and make your own changes or modifications to your career site. Targeted landing pages as well as targeted branding. For those of you who have multiple locations or multiple brands under one larger umbrella, you can actually have different landing pages with unique brandings so that you can direct traffic according to people's interest. The collection of resumes and attraction of interest through talent community. So not just people who come in and follow out the application process, but people who are coming to express an interest can be captured and placed into a talent community. And then on the hire side, this is where we typically see most recruiting systems offering functionality. We include configurable pipelines, mass candidate actions, assistance with interview scheduling, and the ability to do online offer letters complete with electronic signature. So as you can see, really a start to finish complete recruiting management system. One thing that I alluded to on the last slide was this concept of talent communities. And I do just want to take a moment to kind of point out what a talent community is and how it can help your organization. It's the idea that people come to your job site and may or may not find a position that suits them. Or they may find something that they're interested in, but the location maybe isn't just right for them. And so you've had a potentially viable candidate come to your site, something drew them in, but they're leaving without applying for some reason or another. Having a talent community allows these individuals to quickly input an email address, maybe their name and one or two other pieces of information, and allows you to stay in contact with them for future openings. There can be automated marketing campaigns where periodic newsletters are sent out to these individuals. And you can also have some automatic feeds coming from the system. So if a potential candidate indicates an area that they're interested in or a geographic region where they'd like to have an opportunity for employment, when openings come up in those particular areas, the system will automatically notify them. So just a nice, easy way for you to keep track of people who may be viable candidates who aren't currently applying right now, but that you want to keep kind of pending or waiting in the wings should a vacancy come up in their relevant area. And that's the idea of a talent community. Another nice feature about our solution is on the analytics side. So where are people coming from? How are they getting to your site? What posting channels are yielding the most traffic? These are things that people are starting to look for when it comes to where should I spend my recruiting dollars? Where am I getting my best results? So if you're spending the most money in a particular avenue that is yielding the least results, maybe you rethink the allocation of that money. Or if you're getting the most people from a particular site, but they're not making it through to the higher stage, again, maybe you rethink your spend in that particular area. So just having the ability to gather statistics like this to help you not only focus in your recruiting efforts, but also focus in your recruiting dollars and spend allows you to be a more strategic recruiting organization. Okay, let's dive into the system and see a live demonstration. Now I'm just going to click on over and get logged in, so give me just a moment. Here I am. This is an example of an SAP SuccessFactors system. I'm going to go full screen in just a moment so you can have a larger view. But before I do that, I did just want to point out that this is just a web page. So I'm in, I believe, Google Chrome, although we do support all different browser versions. And I'm just at a basic website. There's no special software or executable client that I needed to download and install. And that means that recruiters, internal employee candidates, hiring managers can get to this solution as long as they have access to an internet browser and the internet, or access to a smart device and Wi-Fi. So depending on your system requirements, there's a good chance that your users will be able to easily access our system. So this is our homepage. I'm logged in right now as Tessa Walker, and Tessa is a senior recruiter. And the page that's shown here is the homepage. Because we're in a demo system, we have a lot of those different functional areas that we saw on the slides turned on. Things like performance reviews and core HR and succession planning. But this screen in front of us lays itself out according to the user that we're logged in as. And so because Tessa is a recruiter, we're getting some of her recruiting tasks listed up here at the top. We have maybe some news or announcements geared towards her and her particular role. And then she also happens to be an individual employee. So some of her employee self-service features and functionality display here as well. And again, every user coming into the system is presented with an options menu that meets their particular needs. Up here in the top left-hand corner, if I click on the Home button, this will allow me to navigate the system. I can, of course, just click on any of these quick tiles and go right into the solution from there. But instead, I'll drop down from the top and I'll go right into recruiting. And the page that I'm pulling up here for you now is what I like to call our recruiting dashboard. This is a screen that recruiters would have access to, possibly some hiring managers, depending on how you go about doing business. And if we think of recruiting in its capacity as a standalone module, everything that I need as a recruiter to conduct business is located here for me. So some things to take note of. Across the top, a secondary level of navigation has opened up, and I can jump through and click on any of those links to navigate into any of these sub areas of recruiting. I also see some quick stats up here at the top. So since I last came into this system, 11 new candidates were forwarded, 88 candidates have applied, and I have a total of 54 external and 54 internal requisitions. And on average, my days open, 41 days. Up here across the top, I can click to create a new requisition. I can come in and run recruiting reports. I can review the current offer letters that are out for approval. And I can view some of my statistical dashboard information. In several areas of our system, you'll also see this little dashboard graphic here, offering me statistical insights into the information on the screen. And if I go ahead and click on that tile, it opens up for me some dashboard type information specific to recruiting. So Tessa happens to be a senior recruiter, so she has access to some of the information for some of the junior recruiters below her. So Anya, Amelia, Elsa, and Jenny, for example. And she can go in and see how many requisitions are open for each of those recruiters, her own average days to fill, the status of different employee referrals, candidates who've come in by employees, offer status, acceptance status. And as we scroll over, we see 2 additional dashboards, recruiting pipeline. There's actually a little library of those dashboard tiles. And during system requirements, we go in and look to see which tiles or dashboards make the most sense and put them into these little analytics pieces. I can also take any of those tiles and put them right on the home page so that when Tessa logs in, she's instantly able to see those visual pieces of information. Here in the body of the screen, I have a listing of open job requisitions, and I can come in and change that listing if I wanted to. Because she's a recruiter and a senior recruiter, you can see she has access to some of the requisitions where she's not the primary, but maybe she serves in an oversight capacity. Requisitions can be sorted and filtered based on division, department, location, or really any other characteristic that's consistent across the board. I can filter my options here. So if I only wanted to see requisitions for a particular hiring manager or a particular division, or several other different pieces of information I could include on this screen, it would then tailor the results that are listed here. I can also come in and change the display of this particular screen. If I was more interested in perhaps the requisition ID, I could add that field in. If I wasn't really interested in the division, but more so in department and location, I could leave those fields in. And if I wanted to see who the human resources administrator is, I could check on that field. And then it's going to change up for me the display that I show here, requisition ID and human resources manager. And the next time I come back to this screen, this particular display will be saved and available for me. And that's something that each recruiter can do to kind of tailor the look and feel of this particular section. If I want to go in and view a particular requisition, you can see it's hyperlinked. I can click right on to go in and view it, or if I hover just lightly over it, I'm presented with some options. The ability to view or edit that requisition, the ability to look at the job profile associated with that requisition, to see where that job is posted, to go out and market that job to different sources, view the candidates applied or linked to this requisition, manually add a candidate or search for a candidate from my candidate pool or my talent community. And while we're using this system and we're using the term candidate, we mean not only external candidates, but internal candidates as well. So existing employees in your organization who may be interested in changing positions. So I'll go in and just view the job profile of this operations manager requisition. And it pulls up for me a description, a small summary, competencies, skills, educational requirements. If I am maintaining a job catalog in the system, which I am welcome to do, then these pieces will pull in for me automatically whenever I select a job from that catalog. And of course, I have the ability to make on-the-spot edits to each of these different pieces. And I have the ability to add a new section to the existing sections as well. Now, when I'm setting up my postings for each requisition, I can have a separate posting for both internal and external candidates. So I could have a separate job description for my internal candidates if I wanted to be able to use internal language or company-specific jargon that maybe an external candidate would not be familiar with. And so you can see here on the right-hand side, it just indicates which pieces are shown on the internal and or the external posting. Now, for those of you who happen to work in multinational organizations or organizations that operate in multiple languages, our solution does support 46 different languages. In this particular case, we are viewing this description in English. You'll see that we do have toggle buttons that switch back and forth between the available languages. In this demo system, we have English and Russian available. But again, we do support up to, I believe it's 46 different languages now. And so you can toggle back and forth between the translated values. When I actually go in and look at the candidates, I am presented with my candidate pipeline. And the candidate pipeline, for me, really forms the basis of our tracking solution. So it is here across the top, and it just lists out for us the different steps of our recruitment process. Now, this is something that we tailor for you during the requirements gathering process. So if you do not do a background check, then this piece would not show up for you. If you do an additional step that's not shown here, then we would incorporate your different steps. So this pipeline can be tailored to your organization. And depending on the type of work that you do and the composition of the employees that you recruit for, you may have a need to have more than one pipeline. Perhaps you follow a different process for hourly versus salaried employees, or perhaps you follow a different process for people in North America versus people over in Europe or Asia. So that's just something we would determine when gathering requirements. You'll see here we have 5 candidates listed here on the left-hand side. They're all hyperlinked, so I can click on those links and go right into their profile. You'll see some visual indicators next to each of their names. The yellow card indicates that this is an external candidate, whereas the blue card, Yada, she is an internal candidate. So that helps me to easily differentiate between the 2 different types of candidates. I also see next to Olivia's name that she has a person standing next to another person icon, and that tells me that Olivia was a referral candidate. She was referred by an existing internal employee. Now these 5 candidates are divided up across the existing phases. You can see we've got 1 successful, 1 currently in onboarding, and then 3 in the interview phase. And you may be saying to yourself, how can 1 candidate already be in onboarding and this requisition still open? And that is because we support the ability to hire multiple positions of the same type under 1 requisition. So that means you don't have to post multiple requisitions for like openings. And candidates don't need to apply to multiple requisitions for the same opening. So it just makes it a lot easier for you as a recruiter and the candidate going through the process. So I've got my display options button and my filter options button that help me kind of tailor and personalize this view, just like we saw on the main dashboard page. I also have checkboxes that allow me to select 1 or more employees and then drop down and take an action. I also have the ability to just drag and drop an employee into a particular phase or phases. So if I think, gosh, Olivia is just a great candidate, she did so good in interview 1, I'm going to move her right into the assessment piece, I could do so. Or skip the phone interview and go right into an on-person interview, I could do so. And then depending on your business process and maybe your level as a recruiter, the system would automatically move that candidate, or perhaps would look for some sort of workflow approval for the exception you're hoping to make. Maybe in a scenario where you're rehiring someone, you skip the background check if their last background check was conducted within a certain period of time. Or maybe for referrals, you skip the phone screening and bring them right in for a shortlist interview. So whatever your process is, you do have the ability to be flexible between each of these different statuses. If I click on a candidate's name, it will bring up for me the candidate profile. And this is all of the information collected on this particular individual. So right now we're on the application view. I can see contact information, cover letter, resume, go in and view a quick business card profile. And as I scroll down, I can see all of the different jobs that a candidate has applied for. This is helpful if someone has applied multiple times in the past. You can see if they were successful or not, or where they dropped out of the process. You can also see if they're currently applying to more than 1 position at that same time. So you can see where else they may be active, what other hiring managers or recruiters may be talking to this employee or candidate. On the correspondence side, any correspondence that's taken place between the candidate and a recruiter, or even something auto-generated by the system, is tracked here. So thank you for applying, or an invitation for an interview, or any of those things are all recorded here for us. That way any recruiter working on this particular requisition has insight into this information. Information about some of the steps in the pipeline. So the pre-screen, the assessment tests, reference checks, all of this information is put in and available. If there was an offer letter, if it was responded to, if there's an e-signature, all of that is shown here and available. And then finally, we get down to the audit trail. Every single touch that a recruiter took or that the candidate took within the system is recorded here. So if someone was moved to a short list with an exception, or if someone took a few notes and moved into a cleared or uncleared status, all of those pieces are recorded and available here in a concise, ordered timeline. And then, of course, getting down to the bottom, all of the information that was submitted on the employee's application is stored here and accessible as well. So things like previous employment history, educational background, language skills, that type of thing. So a very nice complete record available on the candidate and the activity that they've had with your system. I also have the button over here to just quickly jump over to their resume so I can view and see specifically what was submitted through the resume submission process. And of course, I have my quick take action button that allows me to forward this on perhaps to a hiring manager, remove them from the process, move them to a different status, or of course, go back to my primary list of candidates shown over here. So just a really nice, complete way to manage your candidates. When it comes to job postings, we have the ability to post, as I said, both internally and externally. You can set posting start and end times. A lot of my customers will do kind of a preliminary post internally and then do a slightly delayed or staggered external approach. And that gives internal candidates maybe a 2-week lead time to express interest before they open it up externally. With starting those start and end dates, you can make sure things are staged or triggered appropriately. We do also work extremely well with agencies. So any agencies that you are working with in terms of staffing this requisition, you can post out to their local sites and give agents access to this system in a limited capacity to perform tasks on your behalf. I mentioned on the slides section when we were talking about sourcing, the ability to post to over 4,000 different job boards globally. I believe the numbers add about 4,200. So that's automatic integrations to over 4,200 job sites. It's a really nice feature that you could just go in and post your requisition in your opening wherever you wanted to, whenever you needed to. We do also offer features and functionality related to candidate interviews. So I'll just pull open the score piece right here so that you can see a little side-by-side example, and then we'll look at what that means in a little bit more detail. But out of the 3 candidates who have interviewed or are currently interviewing, you can see that there were 3 characteristics we asked for them to be evaluated on. And these are the scores that they have been given so far. And these are composite scores. On the right-hand side is the stack ranker. So they get ranked based on the scores they've received. And on the scorecard, there's also a final thumbs up, thumbs down, where hiring managers or other interviewees can give a final approve or disapprove indicator. And we show that here in the candidate feedback as well. So let me jump from here into Interview Central so we can get a snapshot of what the interview scorecard and the interview process looks like. So here we are hiring for that operations manager requisition. The hiring manager, her name is Maya Cooper, and she'll have a page where she can access just like this. She can review the job description, which we saw earlier in both English and Russian. A little note to anyone who's participating in the process with her. And then again, the 3 candidates who are being set for interview. We can do a print and go scorecard. So you could actually print out a paper copy of the scorecard, or this entire component is accessible through our mobile device. So a recruiter or a hiring manager can show up to the interview with their smart device, have the score sheet, have a quick link to a candidate's resume, and be able to go through and ask questions while referring to the resume and input their scores in real time. And this is what that scorecard looks like here within the system itself. Again, we have our 3 candidates, 3 criteria that we're being asked to evaluate them on, and then the currently indicated scores. Stack ranking here on the right-hand side. So I could come in and make some adjustments or modifications. And as I'm doing so, it's adjusting the real-time score here on the right-hand side. And if my final decision changed from a thumbs down to a thumbs up or vice versa, I can make those changes here. I also have the ability to put in interview notes. So if there was something I was concerned about or impressed by, or wanted another recruiter to follow up on during a secondary interview, I could make my notes and comments here. And I also have the ability to upload final interview notes. If I took my own notes on a tablet or on a sheet of paper, type them out somewhere, I could actually upload or import some more comprehensive notes here. And when I'm done with the process, I come down here and click the Done button, and this would all be saved right into the system itself. And the score that shows up back on the Interview Central page are the composite ratings of all the different team interviewers who participated in the process. Okay, now you may be asking, how do we go about getting those interviews set up? And are there any tools within the system that help us with that functionality? And the answer is yes. We have a section here called Interview Scheduling. And this is a page that lists out for us all job requisitions where there are interviews that need to be scheduled. And I can look at all requisitions that I have visibility to, or just the ones that are assigned to me. So depending on, maybe you're a senior recruiter like Tessa is, you want a little bit more visibility. Here on the right-hand side, you can see the picture of the recruiter assigned to this particular task. You can see the location where the task should be performed, and then what the current status is. I have 10 candidates that need to be scheduled for an interview. 9 have not yet been started. When I click on the details button, I can see that one candidate is in an interview draft form and the others have not yet been started. So when I click on the not yet started, it brings up for me the different candidates who need to be scheduled for interviews. And in this case, it is 9 needing to be scheduled for interview 1. So I can select one or more of those candidates and go in and start scheduling their sessions. And the first thing that is going to be asked of me is to give this a title. We'll leave it as interview 1. This will be sent out in the notice to the candidate. Currently assigned to me, I could assign them to someone else if I wanted to. Type of interview, phone, virtual, face-to-face. If it does happen to be a face-to-face, I could come in and select a resource room for conducting that interview. I could add any other people to this interview. One of the things that we do is have different roles in the requisition. So here are some examples: people on the recruiting team, the hiring manager, the HR representative, some different other resource administrators. So I could choose to include all of these people or just one of them at a time. And you see when I do indicate, who should be involved, I indicate whether this should be a 30-minute session, 1 hour, 1.5 hours, how much time this candidate should be spending with each person. And you can see I can extend it out to 1 hour here. And if I do happen to use Outlook, this system is integrated with Outlook. So it will check Tessa's calendar, for example, for availability. And if she is available at a particular day and time, I can actually stick this interview right onto her Outlook calendar so that I'm booking time and reserving it with her directly. So just a nice and convenient way to schedule interview times with these people, the candidates and the interviewers, in a nice, concise, organized fashion. And when I have completed this process, I make sure that everyone who needs to be available is available. It will actually send out system notifications to the candidate, to the interviewers, to hiring managers, anyone else who's involved in the process. I think one of the favorite parts of the system for me is the SMS technology that's been embedded. And that allows me as a recruiter to send periodic announcements or periodic reminders to the candidates themselves. So reminding them of an interview, or reminding them that something is due, or something needs to be scheduled, or something needs to be sent on for follow-up. All of these tasks and activities can be accomplished not only through email, but also through text messaging, which is just a really nice different way to offer a separate means or medium of communication to people. Okay, let me pop back out to the job requisitions. If I am a recruiter and want to create a new requisition, or I'm a hiring manager and want to request a new requisition, we have a few different ways to do that in our system. If you're using some of our additional components or modules, you can actually make requests through those areas, through the org charts or through the core HR piece if someone is transferring or terminating and leaving a vacancy. But if I'm just creating one from scratch, I can come here and click on Create New. And it will bring up for me a listing of requisition templates. And I mentioned earlier when we were looking at the talent pipeline that there are different phases or stages to the recruitment process, from application to phone interview to in-person interviews and background assessments and screenings. Those different pipelines are connected to different requisitions. And this is just a sample list that you see here, a simple requisition, a more complex one, and then one that is relevant to India. And we actually tailor these requisitions according to your business needs. You may need one, you may need four. It's just up to you. And different recruiters can have access to different templates as well. So I'm going to go ahead and open up kind of the raw form of our operations manager requisition that we were looking at earlier in its finished form. And this is where I fill out the different pieces of information that help generate the requisition itself. So the job title, information about the organizational assignment, so division, department, location, language requirements. If you are using, let's say, our core HR functionality, a lot of this would be filled in for you automatically because the system can determine some of this information based on the open position within the HR side. A start and an end date, if it happens to be temporary, it probably has an end assignment. Some of the job details, is this a regular or temporary position, full-time, part-time? Is there an assigned pay grade associated with it? Any travel that may be required? Why are we recruiting for this particular position? Is it a replacement or a new opening based on additional budget? And then information related to salary, pay, and benefits. So what is the pay for this particular opening? Any bonuses or stock options or commissions are included here as well. Now you'll notice that some of these fields are open for me to make modifications, and some of these fields are closed off. I'm not able to make modifications. And that is simply because of the access that I have as the particular recruiter that I am. I can make changes to some pieces of information, but not to others. And so if I need, in this case, a change to perhaps pay, then I would need to go through an approval process to get that modified. Some additional pieces of helpful information: if there is an internal employee referral amount, if there is a recruiting team and a hiring manager who want to be involved in the process, different internal versus external job descriptions, automatic weed out or disqualification questions, willing to travel, authorized to work, of the minimum age. And you can see they're given a certain weighting, which I can adjust. And then some of them are marked as automatic disqualifiers. So if I'm not old enough or I'm not authorized to work here, the system can send a thank you but no thank you email once they have completed the application process. And I can go ahead and add additional questions, put in a weighting, and then have a required minimum score for someone to continue on. It could be for those of you who have licenses or certification requirements for particular roles that you ask for those pieces here as well. Any additional comments or notes that should be maintained, and then I can make my changes here. And depending on my role, these changes may or may not need to go through a workflow to be reviewed by other people. So this is one of the more complex templates, if you will. And as I mentioned earlier, we tailor the content of this requisition to meet your business needs. So if commission and stock are not things that you award, then those fields would not be available to you. They would just be not part of your process. And depending on how you go about posting internally versus externally, there can be a separate posting for each of those different groups. So you can see the actual view takes into account the job profile information that we saw earlier and tacks that on to some of these different requisition pieces. One of the more important things to note is that some of these pieces, such as location or perhaps job role, job level, job status, these are all really great filters for candidates to search on when they are searching your job site. I'm looking for a full-time job. I'm looking for a job in New York. I'm looking for a job that involves manufacturing. So filling in some of these different pieces allow candidates to have more fields in which they can tailor their job search to. The last thing that I'll show you as we're wrapping up are some of our instant queries. We offer very comprehensive, reporting capabilities with our system. We offer ad hoc reporting, we offer real-time analytics and queries, and we also offer, on the recruiting side, some of these on-the-spot inquiries. So instead of running a report and getting a listing that I then have to go back into the system to cross-reference, I can actually do some automatic querying here. So if I wanted to indicate a particular hiring manager or recruiter or particular location, really any of these different fields that I wanted to kind of sort or filter on, EEO group, salary minimum, salary maximum, sign-on bonus, whatever it may be, I can then return instant results for these particular pieces. So if someone comes in and says, how many openings or how many requisitions do we have for New York or New Jersey? Or how many requisitions are for a particular hiring manager? Then you can come in and find that information here. And it gives you the following snapshot. Here's our operations manager requisition that we've been looking at. Here's when it starts. It's currently open. We've got 4 candidates and 1 disqualified. Maya Cooper is our hiring manager. And I can just quickly come in and click on the title to go right into that requisition. So it's a report of sorts, but it's a report that allows me to do active querying and active filtering, active selecting, and then go right into that requisition there. I can choose to export it if I wanted to, along with some of those additional pieces of information. I can take any report that has been put in the system and schedule it to run on a recurring basis. So if every Monday morning I want to walk in and sit at my desk and get a listing of new candidates or new requisitions or pending offer letters, then I can have that report set and made available to me on a regularly scheduled basis. I find that's very helpful if you happen to work a lot with hiring managers who want to know the status of their requisitions. You could give them access to this particular page, but if they're not used to self-service functionality, then you can just have a report that's scheduled that can be delivered to them on a regular recurring basis. And the last thing that customers usually ask me about is the concept of in-solution notifications. And that is just the system's ability to send communications, either in an automated fashion or triggered by a recruiter. And we do maintain a library of communications and correspondence, so that you can click to send status updates, you can click to send invitations for on-site meetings, and of course your offer letters as well. And all of that can be managed through the candidate pipeline by clicking on a candidate's name and choosing the communication that you'd like to send. So let's go ahead and take a look at that particular process. Actually, let me go in through the requisition side so that we get a narrowed down population already. Let's go back into our operations manager. If I wanted to send some sort of notification to Olivia Marks, I can just select her name and click on Contact Candidate. It opens up for me a standard contact template. I can choose to email or SMS or both. It's going to her designated email address, from my designated email address to her designated email address in a particular language. And I could just come in and type free text here, or I could choose from a template. And many of these come delivered with the system. You of course have the ability to create your own and to personalize them. So if I'm canceling an interview, perhaps someone needs to reschedule the hiring manager, you can see the template pulls up the text automatically. Any of these fields that are highlighted with the brackets, those are mail merge fields. So the system's going to fill in those values automatically. Our company logo will be included here, my name and title. If you wanted to add in some additional information, you can do so. And then attach a document as needed and send out. And sending communications in this manner allows the system to track communications. If you're going to your Outlook or just sending something outside of the system won't know to track it. Jumping back here to our main dashboard, offer approvals. Once someone has been sent an offer letter or an offer letter has been drawn up, we can indicate whether this needs to go to a hiring manager or senior level recruiter to approve before it gets sent out. And then it can go to the candidate for acceptance. And you can see here's a list of candidates that are receiving offer letters for these particular jobs in these particular locations, and then the status. And if something is still pending and it hasn't been completed yet, I can get my list of those offers. Any draft offer letters that are sitting in draft form that need to be approved by someone internally, I can review those here, as well as all of my completed offer letters as well. Okay, that takes us to the end of our time today. We have about 5 minutes remaining. At this time, I will open up for any questions in the chat room. Let me go ahead and pull that page up. There is a question about the number of languages that are supported. There are 46 different languages that we currently support for our solution. When the user logs in, it keys off of Internet browser language settings, as well as the language indicator in the employee or manager or recruiter's profile. And in terms of posting requisitions, you can post in those 46 different languages. The system itself does not translate any content that you put into the system, but if you're putting in the translated values, they will show, again, according to language preference in the internet browser of the candidate accessing the posting. Great question. There's another question here about scraping for job sites such as Indeed. And the answer to that question is yes, our solution does scrape for job sites. And in the case of Indeed, that is one that we do work with on a regular basis. There is another question about integrating with social media sites such as LinkedIn and Facebook. And the answer there is yes, we do integrate with those sites. LinkedIn is a very popular one. And so a candidate could actually come to your job site, and when they have found a posting or a requisition that appeals to them, when they start the application process, they can actually click to apply with their LinkedIn profile, and that information will be automatically placed into their candidate application. That's a great question, and we're seeing that most of our customers are taking advantage of that feature. So many people are on LinkedIn nowadays. It's just a nice, easy way for them to apply into your organization. And I guess along those notes, I will also say that our system does support resume parsing, so that if a candidate imports their resume, the system will automatically read and populate the different application fields based on the content of that particular resume. We do choose just one particular document. So for example, a resume versus a cover letter, we typically just parse the resume. And the last question that has come in is about the candidate application and profile setup. And the question has to do with having to fill out an application each time a candidate wants to apply for an opening. And the answer to that is no. When a candidate goes to your site, they create a profile, and that profile can be assigned to multiple requisitions or openings. So they don't need to complete the application process time and time again. Instead, they will just indicate on the requisition that they want to use their existing profile information and submit that. It just makes it easier if someone's applying to more than one opening. They don't have to fill in their name and address and educational background and work history again. That's all saved in one profile assignment, and then they can just assign that profile to the different open requisitions. Okay, I think that is the end of our time today. I thank you so much for joining us. And I turn things back over to my colleague, Hester, with HR.com.
Thank you, Rebecca, for presenting this very informative webcast today. Just a few reminders for the attendees. If you'd like to view this webcast again, the archived recording will be available for up to 7 days on the hr.com website. Slides are also available to download on the website. Your feedback is very important to us, so please take a moment to fill out the exit survey that will appear on your screen once the webcast has ended. This concludes our webcast. Enjoy the rest of your day.